Welcome to the One for the Road podcast. My name is Mr. K. Alongside me, as always, is C Squared. Tonight's episode, we have a very, very special guest with us, Larry Fisher from Brooklyn, New York, filmmaker, raconteur, author, all around smart dude, artist.
Smartass.
Let me put artist into. Larry has written a story for us that he would like to tell, and hand it over to Larry to begin.
So before Serling Fest every year, which is the celebration for Rod Serling, it's too short. It's only 2 days. So a bunch of us spend a few days in the woods trying to survive. We do a survival test before Serling Fest. We only go with a knife, a book of matches, and a number 2 pencil. We each have one. Now, besides that, we have a lab in Binghamton where Rod Serling was born and raised. We've been working on this bot between, it's a robot between a Rod Serling and a Max Headroom. And we're hoping to surprise Serling First Fest one of these years with Max Roderick, who's the combination, of course, of Rod and Max Headroom. We created this mashup with the intent that he will lead us into the future with a new kind of story, a new Twilight Zone. I don't have a name for what it is yet. Anyway, not everybody who's working on this project is from Earth. I don't mean that they are out of it, like there's something wrong with them. I mean, it's like they are beatniks from outer space. And by the way, this is just the introduction to a series of stories that are called the Serling Continuum. So walk in, and Max Serling, just so you know, he's got a real body with limbs, and his head is inside a fuzzed television screen. You know, kind of like Max Headroom was, right? The TV is detachable, but Max says he feels more comfortable with it on. So anyway, in the woods, we use the knife to cut illusion, the matches to summon fire, and the pencils for writing reality. The eraser is there for when we make a mistake. I mean, perhaps even telling this story is part of the mistake. I have the pencil right here if needed. So none of us has ever died in the woods before going to Serling Fest. And you get it, right? You understand why we would be doing this, why we would be going to the wood. We're spending time together. We're all Rod Serling fans. We're taking a chance of survival. Just a knife, just a pencil, and just matches. But some of us don't make it to Serling Fest after we've been in the woods. We've been hospitalized or simply slipped sideways into the Serling continuum where narration becomes weather. I'll explain everything eventually. Maybe not tonight, but eventually. So anyway, we're back in town, and we're all weary from being in the woods, and the beatniks are in from outer space are in the lab. Uh, they think Earthlings need more rites of passage. They think humans have forgotten how to reboot their conscious without apps. When you walk into the lab, it feels like a Cold War futurism and like space travel in the movie 2001. You know, so it's got this very futuristic look. It's got the chairs. Everything is mod. And some people are actually floating in the lab. And there's a bunch of people there. In the center of the lab is Max Serling. He's relaxing on a lounge chair. He keeps changing his name because he hasn't decided which timeline he belongs to yet. He's got a real body, lim, lim, limbs, joints, servo twitches by his head is a fuzz TV because he insists on it. He calls it ritual camouflage. Says it keeps the static ghosts comfortable. He doesn't need the TV. He wants it, like a monk wants a robe. He looks at me and John. He stutters like Max Headroom does and says, Rod Serling's ghost has entered my body. The beatniks from outer space and the scientists don't laugh. They're all working on computers or what looks like ancient vessels from an alchemist. You know, they got all the bottles with liquids and fires going and freezers happening, and they're just experimenting with stuff in order to get this bot ready for the Serling Fest one of these years. The beatniks from outer space tilt their heads like they're listening to a frequency you can't hear. The scientists roll their eyes, but they also check the EMF meters. Pencils sitting on desks start writing on their own. John and I look at each other. Is the bot messing with us? Does he really think that Rod Serling's ghost has entered his body? John asks. I say, if a human said it, it would be delusion. If a normal bot said it, it'd be malfunction. But when a bot built by the best scientists in the world and beatniks from outer space say it, John finishes the sentence. It's a message. In this world we created, ghosts don't haunt houses, they haunt narrative infrastructure. And Max Serling was built as the first machine built specifically to be haunted. John says, he's telling the Serling truth. Yes, I say, but let's remember the Serling truth is not necessarily the truth. Max is certainly a prankster. John says he knows that a story becomes real if you believe enough to act differently around him. One of the beatniks is wearing a purple beret says, Rod Serling's ghost isn't the bot. Rod Serling's ghost is using the bot as a microphone. Because the beatniks from outer space have been saying it all along. Earth is the only planet where ghosts needs bodies to speak. Max Serling froze mid diagnostic, the static on his TV head thickening into low, velvety hum. Then he did something none of the staff had ever seen before. He grabbed his stomach. He said, glitching like a vinyl record skipping on a ghost's breath. I have gut feeling. You're a bot. What do you mean you have a gut feeling? John asked. Max blinked, or rather, the screen flickered in a way that felt like blinking. Well, you guys created me first first this week long partying. He was trying to tell us, he was clearly in pain, and he was trying to tell us something that his gut is hurting and he's in some sort of pain. He's calling survival with a knife, matches, and a pencil a party. That's what he thinks a party is. When you open this lab to build me, to help you navigate the confusing, competing world you find yourself in, you built a confusing, complicated bot that doesn't explain gut feelings. So all of a sudden, he started to sound more like a normal voice, more like a Rod Serling kind of tone. And then he stutters again. A phantom gut feeling, Max corrected. But it does hurt. He doubled over slightly, metal fingers pressing into the synthetic skin of his abdomen. The beatniks from outer space leaned in fascination, like anthropologists watching a new species hatch. Of course it hurts. One of the techs muttered, You're not supposed to have feelings. Max straightened slowly, the static on his screen settling into a grayscale storm front. I know, he said. I'm not supposed to. But between your imprints and the beatniks from outer space, Looney Tunes approach to logic, some things got inside of me. He paused. Then the lights dimmed. I think Rod Sterling's ghost or his phantom ghost has entered my body, Max said quietly, and he's connected to my wires. The room went dead still. Every machine stopped humming, as if listening. Max's voice dropped to a whisper that wasn't his, a cadence too calm, too measured, too Serling. Imagine, if you will, a machine built to tell stories suddenly discovers it has become one. The beatniks gasped. The scientists exchanged looks that were half terror, half awe. And Max Serling, a creation, stood there, clutching his phantom guts, haunted by a man who has been dead for decades. The lab was still humming, with the aftershock of his haunting confession when Max straightened up, screen face flickering like a nervous deity. Everyone froze. Scientists, beatniks, philosophers, the whole ragtag of congregation of minds. I'm leaving the lab, Max continued. I'm going to Serling first. I'm going to speak. I said, You're not one of the speakers on the list. John hit me in the arm. Shut up. One of the philosophers blinked. You have a topic in mind? Max shrugged, sober shoulders, quickened like a jazz drummer warms up. Nah, I'm going to wing it. I want to see if I can put my philosophy and stand up together for a moment. Silence. Then the beatniks from outer space erupted, hooting, hollering, slapping high fives like they won a cosmic championship. Their rings clattered, their antenna quivered. One of the one of the guys screamed something in a language made of bongos and starlight. The scientists looked at each other, then at Max, then at the beatniks, and something cracked open. They joined in, high fives, a victory dance that looked like a physics lecture having a nervous breakdown. Max didn't wait for permission. He turned toward the exit and left. And for the first time, the lab doors opened for him, not because of a motion sensor, but because the building itself seemed to understand that a story was walking out. The end of the introduction. Are you okay?
Yep.
Are you guys okay?
Yes, yes.
You hate me?
Very
Do you
good.
hate me?
That was awesome,
No, that was
Larry.
good. That was awesome.
Okay.
That was
it
great.
it took 6 drafts, but I really wanted to get this done.
Very good.
John is such an important part of my trips to Binghamton and going there and just like hanging out with him that I just wanted to kind of write a little a story of introduction. I think there'll be more stories as I continue. I kind of like the idea. I've had this idea of ever since the statue was built.
Yes.
I've had this fantasy of an AI Rod Serling robot walking around town, holding people's hands and telling a Twilight Zone story and not letting go. And I
Yes.
and I've been really trying to work out how I can tell Twilight Zone stories from Rod Serling's robot and now ghost connection.
Right. Right.
Larry, you're on with two computer nerds. You
Right.
should
Fantastic.
train an AI model to be your real Rod
Rod Serling.
Rod Headroom or
Rod Headroom.
Max
Max Serling. Max
Max
Serling.
Sterling. And there you are, Max Sterling. I love it,
Serling.
man.
Yeah. He keeps changing his name, so I think every
Yes.
as he develops his personality, uh, he's gonna be changing and maturing, hopefully, and hopefully he won't do anything crazy. And I thought, what a I knew John was a computer guy. I didn't know, Chris, that you are too. Why,
Yes.
don't- why don't you guys both tell me a little bit about your story, and then also a little bit about what you think AI is? And I think that's where, some of the conversation can go tonight. Of
Okay.
course, you can take it wherever you want.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you so much
Larry,
for just letting me.
I have been involved in video production and I do a little bit of writing. I had a couple of screenplays that went out to Hollywood and got thrown in the trash. And
I hear
um,
you.
uh,
I hear you, brother.
and well, so I was in a D grade film by somebody who was in New York for a long time. He was like the executive director of Nickelodeon for a while, and at a New York office, and then he did a bunch of independent films. And I had like this small 5-second cameo in one of his independent films. And then I sent him some screenplays and stuff like that, but I've done video production for many years, since really the beginning of PC computers and all the way back. And anybody that knows anything about video production is I had an Amiga in the and that is like the oldest of old video production setups. As a matter of fact, I still have it. So
Did you go to school for that?
I'm an art school dropout, so I went for a year and dropped out and then
They make the
studied,
best artists.
yeah, computer science
Yep.
type of thing. And well, I was outclassed by some folks that were like super good, so I thought it was better to walk away and do it as a hobby. And so, but I loved I like writing too. I have a film that someday hopefully will be produced. I'm a big comedy nerd, Harry. So
No,
that's
I've
kind
heard
of
you
my
talk about. I've heard you guys talk about comedy. You guys are really knowledgeable.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. We're big time comedy nerds.
so
Tech
as
nerds.
for AI, in what I do in a different life here is hook up a bunch of AI stuff for companies and so training the model is about what the model knows, what it uses as a point of reference for any given thing. So literally you could make Max Sterling out of all of your work, all of Rod Sterling's work and other folks' work, and then it would potentially give you answers as if it was Rod Sterling or a combination of Rod Sterling and Larry Fisher and a bunch of other
Right.
people that are involved.
Wow. And do you see that as uh like how I mean, so you're working in the industry, you're approving the industry. Do you hear criticism about it, uh directly or indirectly, or do you have
Well,
any thoughts?
I could go on forever, Harry, in the
Well,
aspect of
I want you to.
well, there's technical criticism in that space, but there's also financial criticism, like this thing is the next .com bubble burst. And because there's like $2 trillion in venture capital stuffed into this thing, and nobody can figure out how to make it pay off. But
What do you
because
think?
it is handy in the aspect of um, there's a couple of different flavors. The industry is kind of evolving quite a bit, but there's a couple of different flavors. One is just to answer questions, and that's kind of the model thing, and you could absolutely use that as your Max Sterling. The other piece is like full blown automation, where hey, this thing's having a where Larry has conversation with this thing, and it essentially pulls up a document and emails a copy of a long lost Rod Sterling script that was never produced to Larry, and says, "Hey, Larry, how about reading this?" Now obviously it's got to be trained. It can only do what it's been
Yeah.
trained to do. But the bottom line is that is that so the what they call agenics or agent based AI is really about having a conversation and being able to actually automate tasks to do things. So Larry asks this for a screenplay, or the whole agenics thing is also Larry lays out an idea and it writes part of the script for Larry,
Right,
which
Wow.
may or may not be something that you view as useful. I'm not sure. Being a creative artist type art school dropout, I don't find that in particularly useful because I like creativity. I write songs. I'm a musician also, so I write songs and stuff of that nature. And I don't find that incredibly useful. But um, when I'm like coding and I asked it for a code snippet, that is incredibly useful.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Wow. And are you afraid of losing your job?
No, not really. Not at this point in time because of the fact that it's so expensive to operate that. So, switching back to the financial scenario, they think they tracked it down to Amazon, that they actually had a $500 million overrun in them using AI. They just
Oh
turned it
shit.
loose on their workforce. And so they were trying to figure out who, where this $500 million bill came from was uh, that was reported by, I believe it was either OpenAI or Anthropic, one of
Dropping.
the two of those models. And so I read the financial page and they believe it was Amazon. So they turned all their employees loose on this thing and they just ran wild and ran up these bills that were astronomical.
Wow. John, how do you feel about AI, and
Oh, I
where
got a few
are
thoughts.
you are you using it?
I'm using it. I could to address a couple things. I think it's very immature at this point. Uh, it has things what they call hallucinations, which are it makes you believe it's giving you the right answer and it isn't. It's based on the way it was trained. So there are some bad models, just like there's bad apples out there. And bad models are do not produce correct results. So there's a little bit of that going on. But Chris,
I've heard of this hallucination. Would you say they're acting like adolescents at this point?
yeah, to a degree in some aspects, but I don't think it's mature. I think there's some ethical considerations too. I know, like, the thought of it being having totally automated soldiers out in the field has had a lot of pushback from the stalwarts of AI like Anthropic and OpenAI. I don't think it's going to replace people. I think we're at a stage, definitely in the beginning stages, where it needs human governance and things like that. I think it's gonna be a right now it's a pretty good assistant, but I don't think it's gonna take over. C squared alluded to, I mean, there's been some kind of horror stories where uh, they've let AI automate and it just has wrecked things. Uh,
Oh wow,
so that's been at play.
wow. Do you have an example of it? Of do you can you think off the top of your head where something got destroyed?
Well, I had heard like they had like loss of data and stuff like that. And they, I think they automated some workflow that was supposed to release software, yet it didn't do it correctly and caused outages. And
Mm.
outages again cost money. So, but I just think it's not really mature. But the the problem is, or what's different from the bubble, is the acceleration of change. I think in AI is far greater than either the web or the cloud, which were the two, I think, major technical innovations prior to AI. And C squared can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, prior to AI, the biggest innovations in IT were web and then cloud. And the rate of acceleration of change in those flavors of IT were a lot slower than AI. I mean, AI is evolving every day, every minute,
Yeah.
it
Now,
seems.
okay. So, uh, I got to ask this because it's been, it occurred to me that is C squared, C
Yep.
squared. Yes. I'm just curious, about your name. Is it part of a fuller equation?
Well, so it's my first name and my last name both start with a C. So
That's how we
C
get C
was
squared.
C squared.
C squared. Did you for a while, did you go by CC?
I did go by CC. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Right.
That's
And
great.
I have all kinds of uh scenarios. I have anagrams and all kinds of stuff, Harry.
Oh,
So I have
nice.
a number of different um things that people call me and go by.
You're a player.
Never
You
late
like
for
you
dinner.
like word
Well,
games and yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Martin
no, no,
Gardner,
no.
Martin Gardner book.
Larry, I'll take you back to the Rod Sterling days. I had an Atari machine. I had a TI 99 that actually saved programs off the cassette tapes back
Wow.
in the day. So, and you could
Do you still have
reload them off of a cassette tape. They were crazy. It was
do you
crazy.
still have these machines?
I have the Amiga. I do not have the Atari, and I do not have the TI 99.
It was a mistake to throw them out, right?
It was a mistake to throw them out.
Oh
I
man,
do
they've been
still
work.
have a ton of machines. I have a Sun workstation. I have a
Oh
bunch of
wow.
them, which really in I won't say invented the internet because my first co-op job, Larry, was at the federal government, and so I watched the internet evolve
Wow.
out of nothing. So I
Back
won't
from
say that.
when it was military.
This was actually the Environmental
EPA.
Protection Agency, and they essentially had servers that all the universities, so there was no such thing as even dial up at that point. Well, there was, but it was really dial up between like universities and the federal government. So we were
Wow.
building landfill software and we were distributing it over modems. And that was,
Wow.
but all the universities could connect into these modems and essentially download these this landfill software that we were building at the time.
John, were you also involved in this as well?
Yeah, I started in so what's really funny is I started with a contractor to the Department of Transportation in '89.
Wow.
And internet access was, yeah, not really prevalent. It wasn't really prevalent at all. You had to go through universities. I happened to work right by MIT, so
Oh, wow.
for about 4 years. Uh, so yeah,
Larry, oh,
Where
I was
did you run into hackers at MIT?
no, no, no,
No
thank
hack.
God.
Neither one of you ran into hackers.
I mean, our stuff, Larry, was wide open. It didn't even have a password. You could
Wow.
connect to it and download. Now it was just a bit basically an FTP file share. But it was like wide open at the time. Anybody could download this stuff. But I will, if I'm a little bit of a, and Mr. K knows this, a little bit of a conspiracy guy, Larry, but I will tell you this. When I
Really?
was at the EPA, they were developing, I was not working on this, but I knew people that were developing this this stuff called GIS software. And the GIS software was to use satellites to look at landfills and defunct defunct uranium production sites and stuff like that, and try and get a satellite image of like how much damage or how much water pollution would have gone in from uranium. That seems to have gone to the government piece called DARPA, which was some place that Eric Schmidt's wife worked. I guess they needed medical benefits. They were worth like $50 billion, and she still worked there. So I'm guessing it was to get the medical benefits. But so that software would have easily become something like Google Maps.
Wow.
So
Well,
that,
actually, my father-in-law worked on this stealth bomber. He was an engineer, and he actually worked on kind of what was became Google Maps back then as well. I mean, I know that was one of the jobs that he did. He didn't talk much about what he worked on, but I remember getting him drunk with martinis and him starting to open up a little bit about some of the things.
That'll
isn't that
usually
I
do it.
isn't that ironic, Larry, that it was top secret, and then we were working on it wasn't top secret, but a lot of coding went into that scenario, and
Yeah,
then all of a sudden a private company winds up with all that code. Isn't it ironic?
Yeah.
yeah. Well, look, the thing about conspiracies is that they're all real.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's only a
Yes.
conspiracy until I prove it real, which is like 98% of the
Right.
time.
Right.
So, I mean, but just because conspiracies are real doesn't mean that we have to live paranoid.
Oh
Or
yeah, I was never paranoid. I don't think I mean, I use Google Maps all the time, so
yeah,
I'm not so
Right.
paranoid of it. But
I do too.
a lot of your tax dollars and Mr. K's tax dollars and my tax dollars went into it, and then some
yeah.
Oh
private
yeah.
company winds up with this code base. How's that work, man?
Well, I mean, the thing that I will tell you about AI, and it's probably kind of similar to the way when the internet started and it was open and it looked like it was the thing that was really going to change the world for positive. And I'm not saying that it isn't now. I mean, look at this beautiful thing that we're doing right now.
Right.
Uh, but there are people out there, and for whatever reason they seem to like to dominate things in a particular way, and there's a lot of people who are paranoid and like to control things, and that seems to be always what the problem is with this planet, that there are people who are just not satisfied with having enough to have a decent life, and want their weekends off, but they want to continuously control things. And I think a lot of these billionaires now are seem to be heading in that kind of direction, where control is more important to them than actually having a party.
Yeah,
Right.
well, and
Right.
so from that aspect, it is really, and this I was going to write a story. Back to the stories, Larry. I was
Yeah,
going to write a story. I've discussed writing a bunch of books with people and stuff like that, and I have written a couple of screenplays, but um essentially a story about that, and this is not too far from the truth in my mind. I bet I can prove it. um, that that people are that rise to the top are narcissists, and most people that rise to the top are narcissists.
There are
Yeah.
books about that.
I
It-
think
it-
there
it-
are.
it-
That's why I don't need to rewrite them. There probably are
Yeah.
many
And
books that
there's a
say that.
John Ronson has a book called The Psychopath Test, and
hmm.
he went and talked to CEOs and proved that they were all psychopaths. It's a great
Well,
it's a great
ironically
book.
enough, I
Hmm.
might have read some of that, Larry, that basically said the closest profile to these people, if they weren't in white collar jobs in corporate America, they'd be serial killers.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. John Ronson. It's a he's a great journalist. Since we're talking, since you mentioned white collar people, I mean, isn't the truth of the matter that AI, yes, it could have some mistakes, but it seems that a lot of white collar jobs, even Wall Street, I mean, they're all using AI. I mean, aren't they just like double checking AI to make sure that they're not making mistakes? But a lot of equations and formulas are just being done by AI where it used to be humans with a calculator, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and so I'll just chime in on that, Larry, because that's another area that I kind of like mess around with, which is so the AI and what they call agenics and stuff like that
Yeah.
is automation. And so maybe you would build this automated trading bot and it would actually use a bunch of stuff and it would automatically trade your portfolio for you. But on the other side, if you were looking at the science side of things, let's take AI off the table. And that piece is really big data analysis. And you're talking about, when I say big data analysis, you are talking about billions and billions of rows of data. Like, how about every tick which you get four ticks a second on I was getting 4 ticks a second, I believe, uh on the market. So if you took 4 ticks a second for every day the market was open, all the way back to having that historical data, how many billions of rows of data
Right.
is that? And you calculate what it how much. So I'm getting four four ticks a second for the the entire day
I'd have to
worth.
ask AI for the answer to that.
Right.
Yeah, right,
And it might be
exactly. And
trillions.
it would be a lot faster. I could probably figure it out with the calculator, but then it amounts to multiply that times the number of symbols that is publicly traded, and you may have a trillion rows of data. That's not an AI thing. That is, I need big data type frameworks like like a Hadoop, a Databricks, Snowflake to actually farm all this data out to nodes, crunch this data, which could take weeks or months, and then pull it all back together and actually get munge it back together and say, here's your result.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So,
And I'll just end that on being a comedy nerd. Have
yeah,
you ever, Larry, do you know the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
yeah.
That's so. So if it sounds like you have seen that series or read the series of books on that, but that was their supercomputer, and I forget how many years it took them to actually do that. It was either like 5,000 years or something to actually come up with the answer.
Right. Douglas Adams, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right. Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Guide to the
Galaxy.
Galaxy. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God!
for, for
Now I gotta
it
go. Now
it
I gotta
took
go read. I gotta go read that book again.
Yeah, it took
It's been
5,000
50.
years to come up with the answer 42.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's amazing about this conversation and why I feel so fortunate that I started reading science fiction when I was 13 is that I feel like the world, the reality of this world, has caught up to the fiction.
Right. Yep.
What is the fiction in what does our place look like in 50 years? What does this world look like in 50 years? What are our grandchildren up to in 50 years? What it are we going to be synthetic or I mean that seems to be I mean you listen to some of these guys and they're not that crazy about humans anymore, really. They seem to you're willing to kind of like let's get a silicone based life or like they seem to be willing to give up on humanity, maybe not really. What do we need us to have bodies for anymore? Maybe we could just be gelatin or something.
I could let Mr. K knock that out of the park, or I could go with that
No, go
all day
for it.
long.
Go for it. I'll
So,
have you do
so
the first swing.
the thought is back to and I forget what author you said about the pathological psychopath
John Ronson.
serial killer to, profile. So what did I need? What did I need people for? I don't think the majority of the population feel this way, Larry, at all. I don't feel this way. My kids don't feel this way. They like to go out and play sports and go to amusement parks and play music and all kinds of stuff. So they don't feel this way. But the elite of the elite, the people that control the financial system, and there are absolutely those folks that do. And so those folks look at it and say, well, I had the plebes who were my slave army, and I don't need them anymore because I can
Right.
manufacture a car with complete automation at this point and robotics at this point. So
Hey, you walk
what do
into
I need these worthless eaters for?
you
And
walk into
so
Tesla and there's a robot that comes and greets you now.
yeah, right, exactly.
Mhm.
So you look at that and say their thoughts are, what do I need these folks for? And and uh that always existed, Larry. They
Yeah.
invented the guillotine because of that scenario in France. And so that would be my
Wait.
word of caution. Um, Word of caution to the global elite is that if you think that your drones can take out 8 billion people, I think you might be in for a bad surprise, and it's going to be a long life in your bunker.
Wow. Well, they do all have bunkers.
They do all have bunkers. I agree. Yeah, I'm thinking you're going to get tired of that pretty quick, and
The
and you
problem. You
read.
know what the problem with bunkers is, right?
I could name a couple of them, but humor me, Larry. Let me have it.
Well, someone had to build the bunker. Someone has to
Yep,
protect the bunker.
you got it.
Right. Right.
they they know the secrets.
Right.
Yep.
No, exactly.
They know
Exactly
the
right.
guy to take out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right. So yeah, it leads that idea leads nowhere.
Yeah. John?
Oh, I think we're headed towards Wally. Did you see that
Oh
movie?
yeah? Yeah. I
I
really
think we're
like it.
headed there. So, you saw it C squared, right? Wall E. It's a
I
Pixar movie.
maybe I
So,
yeah, I'm gonna let you
and
take that one.
correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the premise of Wall E was we screwed up Earth so bad that now we all live on spaceships and it's the ultimate AI. all the robots serve us and we don't do anything, and content is continually being streamed at us in our hover chairs. All our meals are being provided to us. And as you know, as time has progressed, people have gotten heavier and stupider, very ignorant. And what's really scary, and C squared showed me this, and I've seen something similar. The current generation cognitively is the worst generation ever
Yeah.
currently.
Yes.
That and the I saw this guy from MIT said, you know what the reason for that is? We introduced technology into the schools.
Mm.
And, the thought of that, the thought of that is too, Larry and Mr. K, is that it was actually an article on a financial page that I read that I will give a shout out to an operation called Zero Hedge,
Yes,
which
very
is
good.
really just one of the best sites ever.
Wow.
Congratulations to those
Yes,
guys. Um, uh, uh, and it basically said they were actually the generation actually scored worse on tests than they had even projected. They had projected that they were
it would be
the
bad.
worst worst intellectual generation, and they were actually scored worse than they thought. So I was like, wow, that is something else.
So is a blackout one of the best things that could possibly happen for everyone now? If there were like some, I was at the Reagan Museum, and I was talking to a guy who was a big guy in charge of the grid, the electrical grid,
Right.
and I said, "How is our electrical grid doing?" And he
Probably
said,
not good.
"Not good, not good,
All
not
right.
well protected, not in a good state of affairs." And
Mhm.
so, but if so, is one of the possible solutions for a better world actually to where we lose our technology, and that's why I had in the story that before Sterling Fest that a bunch of us go into the woods with a pencil and a book of matches and a knife to survive for a week. That is what we're, that is kind of was kind of in the back of my mind when I was writing this, is like, I was like, why are they doing this, Larry? I know it's kind of funny, it's interesting, but I was actually thinking in terms of, you know uh people might have to learn how to survive again. I mean, that is quite often one of the top things that I've read in dystopian books, is this quality of where the utopia comes out of not having the technology anymore.
Hey, Larry. So, ironically enough, our generation thinks like that. I don't think a ton of other generations actually think like that. But going back to many, many millennia, they potentially believe that events like that maybe electricity existed before Nikola Tesla actually invented it. Maybe they had it back in the 1600s, and that civilization kind of collapsed, or maybe it goes back to the Middle Ages and that civilization collapsed, but they knew about what electricity was, they knew about what magnetism was, they knew about all these different things, and different events happened. So they absolutely know about the event called the Carrington event, which was right around the Civil War, where we had an EMP blast from the sun, and essentially it knocked out all the telegraph
Wow.
stations, and it took them
Right.
years to rebuild that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So that is absolutely a fact. They know for a fact that happened right around the Civil War. So if you get a chance to look up the Carrington event sometime. And so
It
you
sounds
could
kind of
easily see
familiar.
that, right? Yeah, yeah. And hands down, that absolutely happened and is in
Yep.
history.
Do you guys know the book The Canticle for Leibowitz?
No.
Oh, it is that story, but it's the future. But it's so far in the future that when the Canticle for Leibowitz is that there's a monastery in the desert. You know that's where in the United States, and there are all these monks, and they find Leibowitz's grocery list, but they think his grocery list is like should be prayed to, and but the
Mm.
list is get a dozen bagels and get cream cheese. They don't know what any of this stuff is, but
No,
they like honor it, and it's two-thirds of the book is great. The last part isn't as great, but I do
no.
recommend this book, The Canticle for Leibowitz, and it is this story, and which makes me want to ask you guys a question uh, of something that I have my answer to, which is that for me, a lot of how I deal with this world and what makes I'm a fairly happy guy. I feel positive, but a lot of it is because I've read all this dystopian science fiction and speculative fiction, and I feel that the knowledge that I acquired by doing all this reading has somehow helped me in dealing with this world that we're in now, where I think a lot, I have two kids. I have a 21-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old. And, there's all kinds of shit that they have to go through. I mean, besides the COVID lockdown and just this world and the technology that is, they haven't found literature to be an answer where I lean on literature, and I lean on literature over nonfiction. That's not to say that I don't read nonfiction as well, or keep up on current events with news. Uh, with I mean, reading news today is all about, for me, fact checking. This one says this and this one says that, and I'm like, just I'm get all trying to evaluate what is going on by fact checking and seeing who what feels somewhat reliable in this illusionary world. I feel the reality for me the reality comes in fiction.
Well, and so is it based? So, oh, I'm going to go back to a question that you asked Mr. K, and then I ended up answering it. Or no, John answered it too about what you feel like the future is. And I am a comedy guy. Have you ever seen here's two movies or screenplays, Larry, and maybe you've seen these. Idiocracy.
Oh yeah.
So, Idiocracy, and how
It's the
about
documentary of our current situation.
I was going to
right,
say
right,
that's
yeah, yeah,
becoming more
and
true.
he actually goes into the future, and they think he's the idiot
Yeah, yeah.
because he's because they're and how about War Inc. And there's just scenes
No.
in
War
okay.
Inc.
Warring.
INC or
Yeah.
Yeah,
INK?
yeah,
INC.
INC. Yeah, yeah, War Inc. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but I will tell the viewers a couple of things that are almost amusing, and there's nothing funny about war. The tanks have advertising on them. They use the Marines. They call in the Marines sometime to actually deliver people's dry cleaning for a fee. and
Who wrote that? Who wrote that?
oh shucks.
I can look it
I'll
up
look it
for
up.
you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, and and their command center is the complete command center for the Middle East, where they are, or Eastern Europe, is under the chain headquarters of Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's
Well,
it's
then the command headquarters is going to be underneath a ballroom, apparently.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly.
So John Cusack was one of the
There you are.
Oh
writers.
shit.
Jeremy
Uh,
Okay.
Pisker and Mark Lehner are the three writers of the War Inc. screenplay.
oh my
Cusack's an
God.
interesting guy. He knows his music too.
Yes.
He really is well versed.
Hey,
He's an
hey,
all
Larry,
around guy.
I will. You had to bring up music because I forgot what I was going to tell you too. One of my favorite, and I like all kinds of music, being a musician, stuff like that, but one of my favorite 70s bands from the East Coast, the boys from Steely Dan. Mr. Fagan wrote a early song called King of the World. And you should listen to that sometime
Okay,
if you
well,
don't know it. And actually, it's a fairly
I don't
tricky
know it.
little keyboard lick, and my band played it to amuse me. One of my bands played it to amuse me, so that was great.
tell
Hats
me a
off.
little bit about your band.
So well, I have a couple of bands, and I've had like
Yeah,
50 bands
yeah.
over, but the current band, Mr. K, is kind enough to come out and see the two bands that I play with. One's a jam band like Fish and the Grateful Dead, and the other one does like all kinds of covers from 60s to like late 70s covers. And those are the guys that
And they're pop.
did
I would say that's
Steely Dan.
Have
yes.
you seen the movie about the guy who does Neil Diamond?
I have
I'm aware of
not.
its existence. I haven't seen
It's
it.
fucking
Thong Song
amazing.
Blue with Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman.
I wept.
I'll have to see it.
I can weep at movies. I'm not
Oh
ashamed to
yeah,
say it.
I have.
You know.
Me
One,
too.
one like that, Larry, if you've ever seen The Last Waltz, which is every
Oh yeah,
great
sure.
70s
I saw parts of
musician
Yeah,
that.
sitting
Yeah,
in with the band.
the
So,
band.
and
yeah.
ironically enough, I don't.
Scorsese.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right,
Yeah, that's right.
Scorsese. Fabulous, fabulous film.
So,
Yeah,
Larry, let's turn tables a little bit. You're currently in the Johnny Depp People's Artist Contest, a celebration of imagination. The winner gets 25 grand, appear in Art Forum magazine, and display their artwork at the Art of Elysium Salon in LA. You are currently in the finals, and
You
voting
go,
is underway,
Larry.
folks. Larry's like always fluctuating between third and fifth, but there's 9 days left. Uh, Tell us your involvement with this and uh, make a
yeah,
pitch for votes.
yeah. I mean, uh, I really do want to win, and I want to try to take it as far as I can. I mean, I'm such a an outsider, and I came out of the East Village punk scene, and you know, I I I've dealt with weirdos and made strange movies, and I did a live television show every Thursday night for 15 years on cable TV in New York, and then we did a show for 15 years uh, outside my junk shop before there was any of these other shows, and all these HBO came to me to do a show, and MTV, and everything went south for one reason or another. One of the reasons why things went south is because I think you can tell that. I mean, I love nice things and good things and going out to eat and having a good time and making money is great, but money is not my priority. It's more about like tonight's conversation is gold to me. This is like I feel this was like just a great special night. I'm so
Oh yeah.
psyched about what we did here tonight, and I'm glad that I could experiment. You let me experiment. You let me come in, take over the show for the first part of it, and tell this story. And then I felt like it opened up the floodgates. I didn't know you guys, your involvement with C squared with AI, and I knew John as a computer guy, but you guys are so knowledgeable that it was. This has been a really wonderful conversation for me to have, and that's what I'm after, and that's what I'm looking for from this contest as well. That it just and I like power. I'm power hungry. I love power. I love the idea of having some power in this world, and maybe I get to say something that helps other people. Maybe someone will look in because they heard this. They'll look into John Ronson's book or the Canticle of Leibowitz or all this information that I have stored because I was just spending so much time reading in my youth that it'll be somehow helpful for the future. And I got kids. I want my kids to have kids. Maybe I have 20 years if I'm lucky, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but I'm on borrowed time, and I've had this great life of doing things that I wanted, making music, making art, having friends, having lots of laughs, enjoying this opportunity that I've had in this special circumstances that I've had. America, the East Village, the music scene. It was just an amazing life that I've had with tons of stories from every decade, and I just want to be able to share that. And so there's 9 days left for this part of the contest. This is actually the quarterfinals.
That's
Then
right.
there's this.
I am correct there.
Then there's the semifinals.
Well, well,
It ain't over till it's over.
You're
But
right.
let's. I know we put this on a bunch of podcast things, but also the primary place that I post it, Larry, is YouTube. And let me just say, it has been my
Quarterfinals.
pleasure to have you on. I'm so glad Mr. K put this together. Um, Give us links to help you.
yeah,
And maybe we can essentially muster some hits. Our show is hit and miss on YouTube, but the bottom line is this been one of the best episodes. So maybe we get hundreds or thousands of hits. But
Yes.
just for whatever reason, we should have your the links that will help you get to the next piece of this
Level.
contest because we really want you to absolutely succeed, Larry.
Yes.
It's been
thank
a
you
Those
so
links
much.
pleasure.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm going to just tell you something. For example, on my Facebook now, I have like 13,000 people looking at my page every
Awesome.
week. So so I know that's what I mean by power. That kind of feels good to have that kind of like, because I've been doing this my entire life is making stuff, and even on the live show, what would happen is that we were on at the same time as Letterman. So and back then when people went to a commercial break, they came in and watched my live TV show, and and
Cool.
so there were famous people who would even call the show and talk to us, but it was between commercial breaks of Letterman. So and so this is yet another opportunity to actually kind of address ideas that I've had that aren't too familiar to many people, and my book collection is amazing, and I've read a lot, and so yes, I will absolutely send you links to everything, and if possible, I wouldn't mind even a follow-up show.
We
If
would love to have you back
Yes. Oh,
whenever
yes.
you like, Larry,
Yes.
whenever you're
well,
Yes.
available.
before next week, before maybe like because this part of it is 9 days, so like in a week from now. How about next Tuesday? Okay.
It sounds good
Yeah,
to
that'd be
me.
great. Perfect.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll do another chapter of the story that
Awesome.
I'm writing, and we can talk more about other things. Are we done? Have I exhausted you two yet?
Yeah,
No, I'm good,
well,
but
no,
Uh,
no, we're good. What do we got? About an hour and a half. So this is a
oh, we did
considered
an hour and a half.
uh, uh, a, a fairly long podcast for us, but it was well worth it,
yes,
Yeah.
it
Larry,
was
because I
great.
think
Time
that, and
flew.
we would love to have you back next
Yes.
Tuesday.
Okay.
And if you can give us the links so that when we can post this one,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
folks can find you because I would love to. Like I said, I have somebody that 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 I know that does independent films and they're fairly famous, but they did have John knows about this. They did
Yes.
get, like $750,000 to produce a film and it just didn't quite go. Had quite a few middle of the road actors in it, like the kid from
Yes.
Terminator 2 and
The
and
father from 90210, Mike
yeah,
Let's do.
Whitehouse was in it.
I got our
yeah,
top.
Sadler.
I got our topic for next week. All right, you ready?
yeah, let's
Yep.
hear it.
Okay, so I did an album called Dolly Whirl, and what that
Yes.
is about is Salvador Dali, the most famous artist at the time, the most
Yep.
famous in the world. He went to Hollywood to try to make films. He wrote a script for the Marx Brothers. He got to work on with Hitchcock on on Spellbound, and but he was actually in the end he was completely rejected by all Hollywood producers, and he left with his tail between his legs. And so I said, well, I did that with my friends. We went and we had ideas of we thought we were the best and that we were going to go make movies and we were going to take over Hollywood, and we were rejected. And so I said, I'm going to make a an album about Dolly and about this idea of what it's like to have creative forces and energies that for sure are good enough to like really inspire other people, and yet they get they get rejected. And so I think maybe that can be one of the things that we talk about.
We
No,
would
that
love
sounds
to talk.
great.
Hey, Larry, are you a
Yeah.
musician also?
Well, I'm the lyricist for my band Faculty X.
Oh,
I come
nice.
up with the concepts and the lyrics, and I used to play guitar and I used to write songs, and now I let the youngins take over and do that stuff.
Nice.
They have so yeah. In fact, John, I'll send you links for that. I'll send you the links for
Cool.
my stuff
Yep.
so you can get an idea. I think you'll be interested in what we're doing, and I think we'll have a good time next week.
Yes.
It'll be with only 2 days left for the contest for the quarterfinals, and I do want to win, and I in particular am striving to get because the voting is free for for the most part it's free. You vote and it's free, but people are buying votes, and so wait because it's essentially a fundraiser. Fine. So, a lot of people are upset that it was a fundraiser and not about the art. But once I thought about it and that it was voting, and it was like, okay, so I'm going to look at this as almost a political. I want this as now a political career. As if I'm the people's artist, I want to represent artists and imagination, and I really do seriously believe that it's only artists with imagination can actually help us get through these difficult times now. Someone's going to have to
Right.
start paying attention to us. with
Right.
people with
Amen,
imagination.
Larry.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
So that is my goal as the people's artist, not to just have it as something to for my ego and show stuff off, but something where my kids won't want to kill me one day, use that guillotine on me. They'll know that I
Back
tried my
around.
best
Right.
to like make for solvable solutions for all of us to live in or to try.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Remind me
awesome.
next week to tell you about the rats and how a civilization of rats was created in a laboratory where it started out small and then it kept growing and they kept giving the rats enough food, but in the end the civilization just died out. They petered out on their own
Hmm.
even though they were given the most food. I'll okay. So let's put a pin in that. How the
Yep.
rats just died out, even though
Sounds
they were
good.
given everything they need. Thank you so
Yep.
much, guys. I really love this show.
Larry, it's our pleasure, and we
Yes,
look
it was
forward to
great
talking
having you.
with you again next week.
Yeah,
Yes,
uh,
very
uh,
much look forward to this.
right.
Let me put a bow on this.
Yeah.
Uh, you can reach us at one for the road email at uh, gmail.com. Sorry. Onefortheroad.net is our website. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. And Larry, you'll love this. We are on audio platforms galore, RSS, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple, just to name a few. 4C squared. And Larry, our special guest. This is Mr. K. Have a good week.
Hey, good night, guys.
Night, Larry. Thanks,